Welcome to The Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. Since Biden took office, something strange yet predictable happened. For example, last week, the Deep Blue Washington, D.C. announced they would reopen for indoor dining with restrictions. On January 22nd, Michigan Governor Whitmer also announced that Michigan's restaurants can reopen for indoor dining with restrictions starting on February 1st. On January 25th, Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, also announced the statewide stay-at-home order is to be lifted immediately. This will allow businesses such as restaurants and hair and nail salons to resume limited operations, though local officials could choose to continue stricter rules. It is not clear how this policy will be enforced, but California has indeed issued such an order. The three places we just mentioned were all shut down during former President Trump's time, but not long after President Trump left, policies started to ease off. Just before leaving office, former President Trump signed an executive order to lift the travel ban on certain European and other countries, effective as of the 26th. The order was signed based on a high degree of mutual trust in their preventative measures. This will also mitigate the economic and social issues led by the prolonged lockdown. However, on January 24th, Biden announced a renewed travel ban on most European countries, as well as the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Brazil, to overturn Trump's previous executive order. In addition, starting January 30th, all non-U.S. citizens who had recently visited Brazil are banned from entering the U.S., and additional travel bans will be added against South Africa. President Biden is also pushing for his first major legislation since taking office. He is appealing a $1.9 trillion pandemic relief bill. This bill is not simply about the CCP virus. First, the bill provides another $1,400 per person in relief and other financial assistance for American taxpayers. Some Republican lawmakers oppose this massive, big spending bill. They find that this bill is stuffed with changes unrelated to the pandemic. From the Republicans' point of view, Congress had already applied $4 trillion in epidemic-related funding by January 20th of this year. Now, there's an additional $1.9 trillion. The Republicans believe this bill from the Biden team contains political delusions that are unrealistic. Senator Chuck Grassley, a senior Republican, quoted an example. He said that raising the national minimum wage to $15 an hour will make small businesses even less willing to hire people. They are already struggling to survive the pandemic and are unable to grow their businesses. This will weaken the U.S. economy and ruin its vitality. Other members are also concerned the bill will increase America's debt risk. Market Insider reported that the U.S. Federal Reserve balance sheet has reached record-breaking levels. President Biden's new proposal will make the balance sheet to account for 42% of U.S. GDP and the deficit to reach 18% of GDP. Legendary investor Jeremy Grantham warned that this could become a key factor in the bursting of the U.S. asset bubble and can bring a financial crisis even more severe than the Great Depression of 1929. Nonetheless, many Democrats are willing to work with President Biden to pass the bill. It looks like President Biden's $1.9 trillion plan could pass easily in the House, but several Senate Republicans have already voiced their opposition. According to the rules, a bill requires at least 60 senators to vote in favor to pass. The Democratic Party is now the majority in the Senate, but if we add Vice President Kamala Harris, the total will only be 51. To pass the bill, it would require Republicans to join in. It is very unlikely many Republicans will support this bill. Therefore, Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer and others are pushing an agenda to remove filibusters. It is a process known as obstruction of proceedings. If successful, it will allow the Democrats to pass the bill with a simple majority vote. With all 50 Democrats in the Senate, plus Kamala Harris, the bill would pass. The Senate is still in a standoff over this issue by the time we finalize this video. This $1.9 trillion bill is President Biden's first notable proposal since he took office. Then what was the first bill introduced by the congressional Democrats after President Biden took office? On January 24th, according to the Populist Press, the first bill introduced in the House of Representatives was led by Democrat Nancy Pelosi. She proposed to overhaul the U.S. electoral system. Now, these are some key points in the bill. First, everyone can register to vote online by sending electronic signature. Second, voter registration does not require a full Social Security number. Third, you can vote when you are 16 years old or older. Fourth, automatic registration. The system can register eligible people as voters whether they want to or not. And fifth, voters cannot be restricted to use mail-in ballots if it is their wish. I'm just listing a few, there are more on the list. Even Jeff Bezos, Amazon's CEO, is urging its employees to vote by mail for its unionization because voting in person will be valid, fair, and successful. We all remember how Amazon's Washington Post reported on former President Trump when he criticized mail-in ballots. This is an obvious double standard. Why isn't Jeff Bezos also criticized by the Washington Post? Well, we talked about the $1.9 trillion spending program and the surgery done on the electoral system. However, these are not the most important agendas for the Democrat-controlled Congress. Their greatest concern is the ongoing push for former President Trump's impeachment. On January 25th, 7 p.m. Eastern, the House of Representatives formally sent former President Trump's impeachment to the Senate. This signifies that the Senate has also officially initiated the process. Now that the detailed schedule has been released, and if things are approved to proceed, the public trial will begin on February 9th. According to The Hill, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts will not preside over the impeachment trial because it is an impeachment of an outgoing president. Instead, Patrick Leahy will preside over this trial. He is a veteran Democrat from Vermont and symbolic president pro tempore of the Senate. He stated that he will oversee the impeachment trial in accordance with the procedures. But in fact, according to several reports from last week, the Supreme Court justices were unwilling to attend the impeachment trial. And on January 25th, the Supreme Court dismissed a lawsuit over whether former President Trump received funding from foreign government during his tenure, thereby violating the Constitution. Though the Supreme Court was criticized, this dismissal is obviously not a bad thing for former President Trump. Now, regarding former President Trump's impeachment case, the Democratic Party's first impeachment of Trump in 2020 went through a 21-day-long trial. This time, the Democratic Party thinks that it won't take as long. As the trial is set to start on February 9th, they hope it will be over by the end of the month, or even as early as the week of February 22nd. In fact, the time span is almost identical. As for this impeachment trial, whether Democrats will invite witness testimony is another concern to many people. The Democratic Party is planning to invite witnesses that will testify to Trump's so-called incitement of the Capitol Hill incident on January 6, but not those who will defend former President Trump. However, more and more Republican senators are now starting to oppose the impeachment. For example, Florida Senator Marco Rubio called it a stupid trial. He also said that he will vote to end this impeachment trial because it will aggravate the partisan divide and it is not good for the future of the country. He further added, "It's like taking a bunch of gasoline and pouring it on top of a fire." In our last episode, we also mentioned that 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers will remain in D.C. until March. One of the purpose is also to protect the impeachment process in the Senate. The Democrats indeed put in a lot of thought into the matter. The Washington Monument is Washington, D.C.'s famous landmark and is usually lit up at nighttime. However, on the night of January 24th, the Washington Monument's exterior lights inexplicably went out. Only the top beacon light was still flashing. The Washington Monument has gone dark. This news is spreading online as it is quite an unexpected incident. The National Park Service, which is responsible for managing the monument, cannot explain the reason. They claim that they are investigating. The Washington Monument has been regarded as the United States symbol for a long time. It is also a symbol of democracy, human rights, and freedom. We have talked about 3 recent agenda items in Congress. Biden has been quite busy these couple of days in the White House. A series of executive orders had been signed, and most of them are reversing the Trump administration's policies. His efficiency has surprised people. However, Biden has a habit of speaking blatant truths publicly, and he did just that, revealing the reality of his work. The National File reported that last week, when Biden was signing an executive order, he said, "I don't know what I'm signing," on camera. However, an unidentified person next to him said, Sign it anyways. Biden then signed his name onto it. The report also mentioned 3 other things. One is a video clip that has been hidden by the Biden White House. At about 1 hour and 16 minutes, a male voice suddenly appeared saying something like,
Javier Becerra, excuse me, our nominee for Secretary of Health.
So just so you know my life, as
Dr.
we're waiting
Rick
to
Murphy,
do this, I just agreed to
Dr. Rochelle
plea sentence
Walensky,
for,
she's going to be the director.
It is not yet confirmed who the speaker was. Some people said it was Hunter Biden, but it still needs to be confirmed. Meanwhile, it is still unknown what a plea sentence means. The White House had unlisted this video clip from its official channel, and it can only be seen in certain video lists or by some users who still possess the link. Another thing is that on January 20th, during Biden's inauguration ceremony, he suddenly shouted out, "Salute the Marines," while walking into the Capitol. However, he didn't even face the Marines behind him at that time, and he never actually saluted them. It was quite odd. Before we move on, I once again would like to make 2 requests. First, our videos are being removed and demonetized. So if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us. Our donor box link is in the description. And secondly, the censorship continues to be excessively restrictive. And if we get shut down, it would be great as a safety measure if you would please sign up to our email list. Okay, let's get back into this. Many bizarre things have happened before and after Biden's inauguration. This past weekend, there was another incident which shows Biden seemingly doting on his son. He took Hunter Biden with him to church for Mass on the 24th. When Biden rode in the presidential state car and the whole presidential motorcade drove away from the church, they stopped halfway in front of a bagel store. It turns out that Hunter Biden ordered bagels in advance and got out of the car to pick them up. It's unbelievable he would be allowed to do that. The whole presidential motorcade and Biden waited for Hunter to pick up his bagels before driving off. That's not all. Biden once told the media that his son used to do drugs, but claimed to have quit. But then according to Florida Congressman Anthony Sabatini, on the 25th, Biden wants to have Hunter lead the DEA. This is truly shocking news. It was reported that 36 Chinese Air Force planes, including 12 fighter jets, entered Taiwan's air defense identification zone for at least 2 consecutive days on the 23rd and the 24th. The Biden administration took no real action and only paid lip service. There was something else in what he said. The Biden administration stated, "We urge Beijing to cease its military, diplomatic, and economic pressure against Taiwan and instead engage in meaningful dialogue with Taiwan's democratically elected representatives." The Taiwanese government was not mentioned in the entire statement. More observers are now noticing that this suggests that Biden's administration may want to return to the One China framework of One China, Two Governments before former President Trump took office, rather than explicitly stating that Taiwan has independent sovereignty, as the Trump administration has done. This small detail reveals a big move. Some of you may have read that the U.S. sent an aircraft carrier group led by the USS Theodore Roosevelt to the waters near China. This is after the recent large incursion of the Chinese Communist bombers and fighter jets into its air defense identification zone. But you should know that they went to the South China Sea, not the Taiwan Strait, and the military said it was a routine operation. U.S. Senator Tom Cotton makes another point, saying that moments after President Biden took office, China sanctioned 28 members of the outgoing administration. These sanctions were a warning, an attempt to blackmail Biden administration officials with personal financial ruin if they dared to stand up to the Chinese Communist Party. On Monday, January 25th, former President Trump announced the establishment of an official post-presidency office. It is called the Office of the Former President. It will be in Palm Beach County, Florida. A platform was set up for future public appearances and statements. According to the agency, former President Trump will continue to use the office to push his America First agenda. Let's read the official statement from the Office of the Former President. Today, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, formally opened the office of the former president. The office will be responsible for managing President Trump's correspondence, public statements, appearances, and official activities to advance the interest of the United States and to carry out the Trump administration's agenda through advocacy, organizing, and public activism. President Trump will always and forever be a champion for the American people. CNN White House correspondent Caitlin Collins confirmed that the office is run by a former White House aide from Palm Beach, Florida. Other U.S. media reporters said they received the first email statement from the office of the former president. After January 6, Twitter and several other social media companies terminated former President Trump's accounts. This left him without a platform for making public statements ever since he left the White House. It is expected that the office of former president will become the official channel for President Trump's messages. Jason Miller, former President Trump's advisor, said last week that former President Trump will use this time out of office to advocate for the integrity of national elections. He will use his dynamic influence to help Republicans win congressional elections in 2022. Miller also dismissed that former President Trump would create a third party. Well, that's it for today, my friends. Please like and share, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.